Welcome. In this video, we'll be talking about placement and routing of the harness that came with the EROD LS3 engine. You will see the placement of the engine computer, called the Engine Control Module, or ECM for short, and the fuse and relay box, which I'll just call the fuse box. Then we'll discuss routing the harness wires. Let's get started. The instructions say it may be easier to install the harness on the engine before installing the engine into the vehicle. Yes, it would make harness installation a little easier, but it would also make everything else harder. Knowing everything I now know, I would still wait until the engine and all accessories are installed before installing the wiring harness. You're about to see where we mounted the ECM. It's a nice protected spot that is also fairly hidden, which keeps the engine compartment clean. The main drawback is that on those rare occasions where access is needed, it will be difficult, possibly requiring removal of the fender. Still, I like this mounting spot. We made our own vibration isolators for the computer. Reducing vibration of the ECM can't hurt and might extend its life. Because we didn't tighten the backside nuts all the way, we put a little Loctite on each one. Rubber grommets make nice isolators. We tighten the nuts until the two sides of each grommet just touched. Opening the fuse box is difficult. Even though we tried to be careful, the locking tabs were permanently damaged when we pried it open. Now the panel will not stay locked into the box. Here's a clip where we discuss it. Getting it apart was a trick, and it's not very obvious how to do it. Actually, right here it says lock release, and the places you need to release are where these slots are. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the places. But what's not obvious is how the tabs work. The part that's locking in actually points to the inside. So it locks right here, here, there, and there, or there on the case. And the way that you can unlock them theoretically is to stick a screwdriver in there and pry the handle inward so that the tip goes outward, forces this tab out, and disengages it right here. If anyone knows the right way to open the fuse box without damaging the locking tabs, please leave a comment. We use 2 bolts with fender washers to secure the box to the firewall. This may not be the best way to mount it. Wires are really stuffed inside the box. With enough vibration, a wire's insulation rubbing against a bolt head could wear through, causing a direct short to ground. We address this by coating the bolt heads with a layer of silicone. A better idea might be just using the proper mounting tabs like these sold by Summit. Here are some things to think about when deciding where to mount the fuse box. The instructions say to mount the fuse and relay center as high in the engine compartment as possible to avoid splash. Another consideration is whether the mounting surface is flat, something we did not think about. We ended up having to shim the box to keep it from warping. Also, keep the hood hinges in mind when choosing a mounting position. Our mounting position was a little too close for comfort. Once the fuse box is mounted, the fuse relay panel can be pushed into place. However, if you're going to make modifications like we did, hold off on fully installing the panel until those modifications are complete. Now let's talk about routing wires and bundles of wires. Route the driver's side of the harness under the engine's rear vacuum port, which has a red cap in the video. There is not enough room between the firewall and the vacuum port to slide the big wiring bundle past it, so you need to slide all of the driver's side engine wiring under the vacuum port from the beginning. The wiring bundle should lay down in the valley just above the valve covers on each side of the engine. There will be a small group of wires exiting the bundle near each fuel injector. The harness has a connector with informational output signals like oil pressure and RPM. GM calls it the bulkhead connector. We wanted to use an existing hole in the firewall for the bulkhead connector wires, but the hole was not big enough for the connector to pass through. Our solution was to depin the connector and pass the wires through, then repin the connector in the interior of the car. Something I know now is that it's best to wait before reassembling the bulkhead connector inside the car because wires may be added or removed. Bet you wouldn't have thought that this little part right here would just come off.
I would not know.
I wouldn't either. Look at that.
There we go.
Okay. So what's the secret? Or is there a secret?
So the little black towers on the inside here are the latch. So you need to separate them. You need to get the screwdriver in between the metal and the plastic. And you don't even have to pull on the wires or anything. You can, if you lean your screwdriver up against the top of each pin, it'll just kind of force it down on its own.
Okay. We'll put it back, we'll plug it back in, and then we'll use that picture to verify that everything is where it was supposed to be.
Yep.
Fuel pump power is an output of the fuse box. We routed the fuel pump power wire through the same opening as the bulkhead connector, across to the driver's side under the dash, and to the back of the car under the door sill along with the taillight wiring. We drilled a new hole in the trunk for the wire to go back underneath the car and run over to the fuel pump. Dylan enlarged the hole where the throttle rod connected to the gas pedal used to pass through the firewall. Both the OBD2 and electronic gas pedal connectors had to be depinned to pass through the hole. Foil-covered wires need to be routed and secured in a way that keeps them clear of sharp edges and hot exhaust. Wiring to the crank position sensor and a knock sensor are found on the passenger side. Wiring to another knock sensor is found on the driver's side. On each side of the engine, there are two oxygen sensors, one here and one here. There is an extremely long offshoot from the wiring harness for each oxygen sensor. The Holley mid-mount accessory kit, which I am a fan of, does not allow the evaporative emissions purge solenoid to mount at the intended spot on the front of the engine. We mounted it on the firewall instead, so those wires had to be pulled from the harness and rerouted to the new location. We need to revisit this though, because now, inside the car, you can hear the solenoid working. The power wires for the fans were routed up and over the passenger side wheel well. In order to work with the cutouts on the cover, the alternator power wire should have been routed down, not to the side as is being shown here. Once the harness is in place, it is easy to see which wire connects to what point on the engine. Connecting is very straightforward. You snap each harness connector to a nearby matching connector on the engine. With all of the wires routed and connected, they can be clamped into place. This concludes our video on placing and routing the wiring harness. Comments and questions are always welcome, and they help other viewers. Thank you for watching.
I would not put my drink up on that windowsill, but that's exactly where I found it last time.
So you've been drinking my drink?
No, you were drinking mine. Nothing worked.
Well, we did get it apart. How did you get it apart?
A combination of I don't know and magic.